You're listening to Demand and Disrupt, the podcast for information about accessibility, advocacy, and all things disability.
Welcome to Demand and Disrupt, a disability podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Parsley.
And I'm your co-host, Sam Moore. I am ready. I've got my steaming hot cup of coffee directly to my left, and it is definitely helping to keep me warm on this nice cold day. Now, Kimberly, tell us what it is that you're drinking in celebration of the holiday season.
Oh, I have something special. It is a Republic of Tea, and it is I believe it's called Sip and Be Merry Tea Blend. It's kind of tea. It's a little, it's got some nut, like a kind of a hazelnut notes in there.
Sounds tasty.
Yeah, with a little toffee, kind of not bad at all.
Yeah, way fancier than my black coffee over here. But that's how we cancel out.
You can't beat a black coffee. You cannot beat it. All good.
It's consistent. You know what you're going to get. But
exactly.
I'm trying to get my hands on some tea.
It's delicious. It's delicious. So you've got our interview this week. Sam, who are we going to be talking to?
We are going to be hearing from the main man himself, David Hartsek. He is a wheelchair athlete from Lexington. He retired a few years back from a long career in the realm of IT, but his athletic pursuits range from wheelchair tennis to wheelchair basketball to even road racing. He doesn't compete a whole lot now, but he still continues to coach and attempt to organize teams. In fact, something particularly impressive about David, Kimberly, he just this past July, he competed in his 41st consecutive Bluegrass 10K in Lexington.
Wow, 41. That is impressive.
That is impressive. And that's an annual event, the Bluegrass 10K. It's held every 4th of July in Lexington. In fact, he last year he won his age division, and I believe he said he did or came. Actually, I think he got third this year, if I remember right. Some of those details are a little blurry, but I tell you, he definitely will impress you with all that he's dabbled in and all of his achievements. And he speaks of Cardinal Hill a lot too. And just for the record, he spent some time there. The dorms that he stayed in as a student at UK were a part of Cardinal Hill because they housed students at UK with disabilities at the time. They don't anymore, I'm pretty positive, but at the time they did. Cardinal Hill is a rehab hospital that is a part of UK healthcare, and it's actually on UK's campus. But he mentions that quite a bit. So just so you folks know, when he mentions Cardinal Hill, that's what he's referencing.
Oh, okay. So Cardinal Hill's kind of sort of like Fraser, I guess, is in Louisville.
Yeah, and he mentions that too. And then Perkins, like you alluded to before we went on the air here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that facility. So I think it's pretty similar to those.
Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying that. Then, those of us down in this part of the state, over in Western Kentucky, I'd never heard of Cardinal Hill before. So.
Yeah, if you're outside of Lexington, it's not a given that you will have heard of it before. So I do what I can.
Right,
what little I can.
Now, the important question, since we're here in December, I know it's what do you want for Christmas, Sam?
Well, Mom keeps asking me, and I always tell her peace, hope, happiness, and she goes, "Well, I can't wrap those." But
that's awesome. That's awesome.
But anyway, I'll probably, I've still got to work on mine. It usually includes hot sauce. Santa Claus generally knows that when he gives me a bottle of Maker's Mark, I'm going to put it to good use.
Oh, okay. Wow. All righty. That sounds good.
So I don't usually drink it straight, but I usually mix it with a little diet of some sort. But I always take full advantage, and that that always comes in handy. And B-Dubs gift cards. Anybody that wants to throw B-Dubs gift cards my way, I definitely love my Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, they're a popular thing around here too.
They are. Yeah, and UK basketball tickets, even though UK is not playing very well right now. I haven't been to Rupp Arena to a game in quite a while, so I could definitely.
So, have you asked Santa for these things? Is that what Santa, aka Mama Moore, I guess, is that what she usually gets you?
Yeah, or anybody else that wants to play Santa Claus, be my guest. But anyway, yeah, and that list is still in progress. I'm sort of I'll be about like your kids that try to throw in a bunch of last minute requests on December 23rd.
That is what my kids did. Yeah, that's what they do. And
you ask them right now, you're like, what do y'all want for Christmas? They go, I don't know.
Nope, I don't know. They say, I don't know. And I guess my mom has been after them so much that my daughter finally did send my mom a list. And I said, say her, she'll steal all the good things off that list and I won't have anything to get you. And she just said, oh, sorry. And I'm like, I think she did that on purpose.
That might have been intentional, Kimberly.
It could have been. She is my child after all. So
you never know. But but to the important stuff, for your Santa Claus or anybody that wants to play your Santa Claus, what might be on your Christmas list?
Well,
not to put you on the spot or anything.
I've got a running list
ongoing
all the time. Well, this is how I'm old, is because I've basically asked for things to make me cozy, like warm socks, a new warm hat, things like that.
So you're planning ahead for this winter.
Yeah. So that's how I look at it. I was like, I am an old person. It is official. But then also, and I know I got this, Michael bought it last night, is a new keyboard. A keyboard.
Like for typing, or I know it's
for typing.
At least I assumed it. I assumed it wasn't a musical keyboard.
No, but we do have one of those here. But no,
that kind of keyboard.
It's yeah. Since I just have the use of one hand to type with, I have always in the past used a laptop keyboard.
Right.
And now I find that I really like I like a numpad, like a number pad,
sure.
Because you can, screen readers, can you just set it to do one thing?
Yeah, I can see that. And
then also more space so that I can do things like get to the arrow key quicker. So I like there to be a healthy amount of real estate, but that separates like the arrow keys from the rest of the keyboard.
I can see that. Yeah, and a regular laptop keyboard, I could see where that would be a bit of a hassle with just one hand.
With just one hand that you don't have real good use of anyway. I mean, I still have not great sensitivity there. It's
in that one hand.
Yeah, it's just I don't want to have to go, if I'm looking for the F6 key, I don't want to have to go all the way to the left and count.
Over. Yeah, that's.
So we went.
Yeah, counting can be a hassle.
I never was good at math.
Wasn't great at it myself.
We went to Best Buy last night, and Michael had me look at the keyboards because I really do need to get hand on.
So you could sort of take several of them for a test drive.
Yeah. So he picked me one out last night, which that's the way to do it. And he'll wrap it up and put it under the tree. So yeah. So
so that's coming, and
I do.
So that's one thing. It's not a bad thing to have a general idea of, or at least a sneak preview of what Santa's going to bring you.
I saw a post, a YouTube or something. Somebody was talking about gifts for people who are disabled. And, my keyboard, that's kind of because of my disability thing.
Well, the keyboard sort of caters to your needs.
It does. So I wonder, do you have any gifts that you ask for or that you buy for people who are disabled that are very disability specific?
Gosh, I don't think I've ever shopped for anybody disability specific. I'm sure somewhere along the line I've probably asked for Christmas things. Oh, that reminds me, when I was in like first or second grade, remember how they used to have those old light talk speech boxes that connected to your computer. Now, of course, we have JAWS and different screen readers.
Right. It was like an external synthesizer.
Yeah, it was
yes,
external.
Yes. Right.
But you hooked it into your computer. When I was like in second grade, I asked for one of those for Christmas. And my Braille teacher's husband owned a computer shop, Mark Grant. And he came, unbeknownst to me, I was in bed. But he and my Braille teacher apparently came over late in the night that on Christmas Eve night, and Mark installed the thing. And they were real quiet, I guess, because I never heard a word out of them. Maybe my air machine or whatever blocked them out. But but that night, they apparently got some nice bonding time. Mark Grant set up the Light Talk speech box, and so when I got up the next morning, I went over there and started typing, and lo and behold, that external unit
awesome.
was speaking to me. So I guess that's the only real disability specific thing that I ever asked for, because my computer at school had a Light Talk speech box that went with it, and I was like, gosh, it'd be great for me to have this at home. And that year, Christmas morning, I woke up with it. So that was great.
Awesome. So they were some real Santa Claus people there, huh?
Those were some real Santa Claus people. Santa Claus was a joint effort that year.
Wow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that really stands out to me. But I'll tell you, one very important, uber important item that we have to get to here, Kimberly. We need another story from the Biscuit Chronicles.
Oh, Biscuit. Okay. So I think that I am sort of a genius.
I think you're more than sort of a genius. Don't sell yourself short.
Bless your heart, Sam. So I don't know if you all remember last year, Biscuit was much younger. Biscuit is no wiser.
A little older, but no wiser.
Right. Anyone who's joined the podcast recently as a disruptor, I'm talking about my dog, Biscuit.
Yes. Yeah.
She's almost 2, so she's not a puppy. She should know better, but she's
2 is like 14 in dog years, I think.
Yeah, she ought to be behaving better. She's not.
Yeah.
She eats ornaments off the tree.
But that's a pain in the rear end.
Yes. Well, she doesn't eat them anymore. She just destroys them. I mean, she gets them and she destroys them.
Oh, okay. Destroys them other ways besides eating.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't eat them. She chews them up and litters the pieces of them through the house and stuff. She makes a big mess. And, I like my ornaments. They're my ornaments. So.
Yeah, most of us do.
Well, on the third try, the third ornament this year.
Ornament.
I was like, you know what? She got this old, knitted Christmas stocking, a small one, like 3 inches tall or something, a small one.
Small knitted stocking.
Small little knitted stocking. And she had made off with that. Well, we caught her. I say we, it was not me. I had nothing to do with catching her. Michael caught her, got it out of her mouth. And I was like, okay, you know what? Give me that stocking. Okay, so that's the stocking. That's the one that she wanted to go after. So, okay, fine. So
the one that Michael stopped her just in the nick.
Right. So I sprayed it with this stuff that is supposed to be a deterrent, like it smells or tastes so bad or something that dogs are supposed to stay away from it.
Good call.
Yeah, right. If it worked, it would have been so smart. But no, it doesn't work. Biscuit has acquired a taste for it, I guess. But so I sprayed the stocking with the stuff and put it back on the tree. And I thought that would deter her. Well, it hasn't. But the thing is, she keeps going back for that one ornament.
That one small knitted stocking?
Right. So she just keeps going back for that. We wrestle it away from her.
Golly. It's almost like that thing you thought was a repellent.
It's almost dry, but you know what? She's only tearing up the same ornament. So I have a beautiful Christmas tree with beautiful ornaments up high where Biscuit can't get them. And this one ugly, half destroyed ornament down low. So.
And that's the one she keeps going at.
That's the one she keeps going for. So at least she's not tearing anything else up.
At least the really attractive ornaments are out of her reach.
So I wouldn't say this is a win necessarily, but it's not a loss.
Yeah,
So
it's not a total. It's like a small victory, isn't it? A half victory.
It's maybe a draw, I guess.
Maybe a draw, but it's funny that stuff you sprayed on that half knitted or that small knitted stocking. It's like that. Instead of being a deterrent, it's almost like maybe it's the exact opposite.
It almost does up here. And I thought, oh, yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, but either way, if it keeps her from leaving the rest of the tree alone, then
I guess it's sort of worth it, isn't it?
I guess it's worth it. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's better than, what it could be.
I guess maybe that's something you might be willing to sacrifice just to know that the other ornaments on the tree are going to be okay.
Right. I mean, the stocking it's over. I mean, it's already half destroyed, so it's over. But
sort of conceded defeat with it.
Maybe you sacrifice that battle to win the war. I don't know.
There you go. I like that.
Maybe. I hate to use a war analogy, but seems
I
fitting.
Think people, they know what you're getting at there. Protecting ornaments on a tree when you have pets is like a mini war. You do have a fake tree, right?
Yes,
we do too. We do too.
Oh, right. You said you went to the fake one, and
we did. And I do miss the pine smell of the real tree. The pine scented candles are quite all right, but they're not quite the same as the real tree.
Quite all right is like damning with faint praise. It really is. They are quite all right.
But I can't appreciate the ease of putting up a real tree and taking it down, or putting up a fake tree, I should say, and taking it down in comparison to the real tree. Fake tree's a lot easier.
Yeah. The road I live on, there's a Christmas tree farm down the road at the end of the road.
Oh, yeah.
And
you mentioned that.
Yeah, and I mean, boy, I tell you what, the day after Thanksgiving, it was a busy day here on this road. I mean, everybody coming in to get their tree day after Thanksgiving.
And I'm sure you stepped outside your house and got a big whiff of pine from that farm.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Bowling Green, so it either smells like trees or Hill's dog food plant. So,
oh yeah, I believe that.
You remember that? You went to Western.
Yes, I do remember smelling Hill's dog food.
Right? Yes, you know what it's like.
Sure.
Say this might be the last episode of Demand and Disrupt.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah, potentially.
Before Christmas, or before the new year, anyhow.
Yes, I've got a great episode coming up. It'll either end the year or it'll start through 2026. So,
right, one or the other.
Either way, the peeps are in good hands.
Yes.
If listeners want to do us a treat, they can always leave us a review. That helps other people to find us. Now, I know that leaving a review is a hassle. It's not super easy for people who are disabled. A lot of times, I know that.
Yeah, it can just be time consuming on top of other things that people want to do or need to do. But we appreciate it more than you will ever know. And with the new year coming up, we're always looking to, tweak our show in ways that people want to perhaps see tweaked, and make any adjustments that people would like to see made, or at least do our best to meet them by halfway at the very least. So if you have any kind of suggestions, people you want to hear from in the new year, topics that you'd like to hear addressed in the new year, let us know. And there's plenty of ways you can do that. We always enjoy hearing from our disruptors via email at an address that's really hard to remember, demandanddisrupt@gmail.com.
There you go. You can also reach out to us on Facebook, and the Facebook is in the show notes always.
Yeah, leave us a message there.
One of the other things I'd like for people to let me know is not just what do you want from the show, but what can we do more for the disabled community? What can we do and be doing more of? Like, I've kicked around the idea of a newsletter. We can do an email newsletter, but maybe
because
people are tired of those. I don't know. You think?
Well, it just depends. Some people are bigger readers than others, but I can see where there might be a niche for newsletters. But Kimberly's right, folks. We are here to serve. So anything that we can do to be of assistance and value to people with disabilities, let us know. Don't be shy.
No, not at all. Don't be shy. Let us know. I think we're doing the Lord's work here, people. We are
That's
doing
right.
important things, getting the word out about people with disabilities, trying to make things better. Just making
Brothers and sisters, lift your cups up. I'm gonna start talking like a Southern Baptist minister.
You are getting a little charismatic here. You
blame it on the coffee.
Blame it. Yeah. No more coffee for you. But I do want to hear, is there an interest in a Patreon? I could produce maybe some extra content if you all would like that. What kind of content would you like to see? Would you like a discussion group that everybody would like to join in via, I don't know, Google Meet, over Zoom, Discord, whatever? We can do any number of things. I just want to know what would best serve this community. I know the Center for Accessible Living is working on really upping the advocacy game. So how can we help be a part of that? What can we do to help organize and get things together to really make 2026 the year, Kentucky, we solve this issue of discrimination. You know what? Let's just do it.
We want to make 2026 a banner year, and we are people serving people.
That's right. And you know what? Go big or go home, right? Everybody knows I love a New Year's resolution. So that's
right. Yeah. Go big or go home.
There you go.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, gang. So we're going to hear your interview, Sam, with David.
Perfect.
All right. Merry Christmas. Happy
New
Year. Bye, gang.
Well, I am beyond blessed today to be joined by a man who has not and will not let paraplegia slow him down. He is a veteran in the wheelchair athletics department. I mean, you name it, whether it's wheelchair tennis, wheelchair basketball, road racing. He's pretty much dabbled in everything and definitely excelled in everything. So needless to say, he's got plenty of stories, including he retired not too long ago from a 30 plus year career in the realm of IT. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also get a little bit of background into the incident that left him paralyzed at a young age, and how he first dove into wheelchair athletics. And we'll also explore his endeavors when it comes to coaching and organizing other teams. So I tell you, the list just goes on and on with this man. So let's welcome him direct via Zoom from Lexington, Kentucky, Mr. David Hartsek.
Hey, howdy. Glad to be with you this afternoon. So.
Well, it's good to be graced with your presence, sir, for sure. Now, you, like we mentioned, you retired. I guess it's been a few years now since you've retired from IT, and you've got children that I know are grown and gone at this point. You've got two children, right, David?
Correct. In 1998, I adopted my first child from China, and about 2 years later, I realized she needed a sister, and I did it again in 2001. So I have two daughters from China adopted, and
two
of course
children.
They are grown and gone now, and out on their own. One's in the sun down in Tampa, Florida, and the other one's in the cold up in Cincinnati. So,
well,
not too far away, but
at least the one in Cincinnati is fairly close, and there's nothing wrong with having a free bed to sleep in Florida whenever you venture down to the Tampa area, for sure. Now, I think I read, David, that you came to Kentucky a while back to pursue wheelchair athletics, but you're not originally from Kentucky, are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Was blessed to be born at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I never got to serve in the services, but I was born at Ireland Army Hospital there in 1958, and grew up in Meade County, small rural community.
Oh, Meade County, Brandenburg.
Yeah, I graduated Well, I took my GED at 17 and opted out of my senior year. Uh, I don't think they was that wheelchair friendly, back in the day before ADA and all that stuff was even recognized.
Right.
Uh, I only needed
Yeah.
3 credits to graduate, and I ended up opting to take a GED and was out of high school in about 5 hours.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, good for you. Yeah, and
So,
Meade County was
yes,
where it. Well, actually, I'll start in Fort Knox before Meade County. So you were in Kentucky even before your pursuit of wheelchair athletics. Now, in a feature of yours that I listened to on YouTube, it was aired on WLEX Channel 18 a few years
mhm.
back. It was noted that you had little, if any, interest, David, in sports prior to your accident at age 16. So before we talk a bit about that, sort of give me a feel for what life was like for you in those early years, along with the interests and hobbies that primarily kept you busy.
Um, well, prior to my accident, um, I learned to work at an early age. Uh, got into a little trouble, and my mom couldn't make financial restitution, so the feller put me to work in a gas station.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
you know, and I just enjoyed the environment and the work and the people and stuff and all that, and learned how to make an honest living, at a very early age. And from then on, from maybe 11, 12 years old, I mean, I was always working, finding odd jobs to do and everything. And, had my career and everything planned out to be a diesel mechanic. And, you know, uh, but as life would have it and stuff and all that, at the age of 16, I had a car wreck, um, out drinking and driving, making bad choices, at a young age, and
Uh-huh.
that's caused my paraplegia, and that was in April of 1975. And to give the extent of my injuries, um, the car rode over 3 times and blew up, and the guy that was with me, he pulled me out of the car, and I was taken to uh, Elizabethtown Hard Memorial Hospital, and they took one look at me, took a few X-rays, and said there's not a whole lot they could do. So they rushed me to Louisville General. I was in a coma for about 5 days. They kept me out. I not only did I break my leg in 3 places, I broke my left wrist, punctured my left lung, I ruptured my spleen, and
Oh, goodness.
broke my back at T10-11. And of course, whenever they got me to Louisville General, they opened me up in the front, repaired my spleen, then flipped me over on my back, put rods in my back, Harrington rods. And so that was in April. I went to rehab a month later at what's now Fraser Rehab. When I went there, it was only 3 stories. So, it's been a while. A lot of good
A
changes
few
and
years
stuff going
back,
on.
yeah. Then you went to a facility in Eastern Kentucky for therapy, correct?
Yeah. Well, I got
Yeah.
home like the 3rd of July, and, you know, sat at home and, wondering what my future held for me. I needed 3 credits to graduate high school. And so after my GED, they thought, well, you want to go to vocational school, college, what do you want to do? And I didn't really know. So they sent me to what is now called Carl Perkins over in Thelma, Kentucky, the other side of Prestonsburg,
Elma.
Thelma,
Oh,
Kentucky.
Thelma. Okay. I was going to say Thelma, I've heard of. Okay. I know, David, that it was here at this facility that you formed a passion for athletics while doing therapy in the process. So tell me a bit about, maybe the nuts and bolts of the therapy you underwent and sort of describe how this went hand in hand with the discovery of your sporting interests.
Well, I was in, working with the therapist there, going to school. They had a vocational school there and stuff. Uh, so they introduced me to wheelchair basketball. I got there in January. Basketball season was still in, and got to go to a few practices and a couple of games and stuff. And I was hooked, hook, line, and sinker. Um, I told one of the therapists, I says, in therapy session one day, I says, if I'm going to spend the rest of my life in this chair, I want to see how it works. And I was always mechanical, being in the garage and stuff, and working on whatever needed to be fixed and everything. Or if not, I was watching someone else do it. Got down on the floor and took my wheelchair apart and looked at it and says, yeah, that's it. And so I rolled over and took a nap. Woke up, a few minutes later and put it back together and everything. So I knew what all they were supposed to do. And that was at 17. And after I'd been there, I spent 3 months at Eastern Kentucky Rehab. And then they asked if I wanted to go to college. And I'm like, college?
Like, I'm not sure.
I wasn't real sure. And no one in my family had ever gone to college or anything and all that. And so I thought, well, do they have a basketball team? And she says, oh, yeah. And just tell me about it. And so I was all in at that point. I didn't know what I was going to graduate in or whatever. I just wanted to go there, be on the team and stuff and all that. So in 76, I came to Lexington, was at Cardinal Hill at the time. Cardinal Hill was using, some of their rooms as dorms for, people with disabilities to go to school over UK. And so I started doing that and what have you. And was having, I got over there the fall of 76 and started playing basketball and everything and seeing how things worked out with others. Got to, know a lot of new people and stuff that was in chairs that, I hadn't been exposed to, people out in the real world.
Well, and in addition to your playing, that was a great time to attend UK basketball wise, because that means you got to see Jack Goose Gibbons and Kyle Macy and that great 78 title team in action plenty of times, didn't you?
Rick Roby, Jay Shiler, and all of them. And they actually came to Cardinal Hill in 78 when they won the national championship and had lunch with, and I'd heard of, because I was already out of Cardinal Hill by then. And, I went to, had to make it my way to the cafeteria and have lunch with them, not realizing what all greatness that they were, doing and stuff. And, got to meet Coach Hall and everything. And, that was really good.
And you got to meet Joe B. Hall too. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then the first part of 78.
Yeah. Which is the year they won it all.
Oh, well, 77, that spring, I broke the rods in my back.
Oh,
for
no.
whatever reason. I was living off campus, by then. And, I went home to see my mom and get my laundry done and stuff, and like any typical college student would do. And come back Monday morning, I went to raise up, and I was like, man, I can't do this. And I had, a couple other roommates in there and everything. And of course, they'd get whatever I needed and all and everything. And, I just couldn't move. And on the third day, I says, I'm going to have to do something. I can't just lay here and have, wait on me and stuff. And so they called an ambulance, and the ambulance took me back to Cardinal Hill. And I remember that table. It was like laying on a concrete floor, and my rods were broke, and the pain was excruciating, tears just rolling down my eyes and stuff.
Oh, no doubt.
She showed me the x-ray. She says, oh, no, look at this. And I look, kind of watery eyed, and she says, that rod's broke. And I'm like, oh my gosh, And so goodness. The fall of 77, I'd been out of school, recovering from that and all. And so I got into, I was in Cardinal Hill, and they came in, my room on Monday morning and said, we're discharging you on Friday. I says, discharge me? I was just barely able to get around. She says, yeah. And I says, and she asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I don't want to go home.
Yeah, I'm not ready yet.
Life was bad enough, with accessibility, but back home was even worse. And so I said, well, give me 2 weeks and I'll, find a job and get hope or get me an apartment and move out. And, and the Lord has funny ways of blessing. By the end of the week, I found a job in an apartment, moved out, and
Oh yeah, that was an eventful week for you,
yeah,
for sure.
and it was a small job. I think it was Lexington Opportunity Workshop, and was only there for a little bit, and then my car broke down, and I had a date with one of the receptionists at Cardinal Hill,
Oh
and
gosh.
and you know, uh, so that was long before cell phones. I mean, we're talking late '70s, and John
Oh yeah.
Winchester here in town that owns big record service, and he fixed my car and everything. I went over to pay him or pick it up, and I didn't have that amount in my checking account, and I said I don't get paid till the first of the month, and he said okay, go ahead and take it. He says if you don't come back and pay me, he says I'm gonna come pick it up, charge double, you know, and
Right.
of course he was saying in a carrying way and stuff. So I went back to pay it off the first of the month and for the repairs. And he asked me if I had a job. And I'm like, well, not at the moment. He says, you want one? I said, yeah. He
Oh,
says, he asked me how much did I know about the city. I'm like, well, I've been around it a time or two, but I can learn. He says, can you read this map behind me? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, we show up Monday morning with a pencil in your pocket and I'll put you to work. Sure enough, I worked there for about a year. And he's just a great person to work for and all and everything. Handling people in distress when their car breaks down and stuff, and learned a lot from him. And then one of the counselors at Cardinal Hill got a hold of me. She kind of watched what I was doing and stuff and all that, and trying to make a go of it. And she said, they got a position over at Central Baptist you may be interested in. And
uh-huh.
so I went over and interviewed them, and they just wanted to offer to me on weekends. And I sat there and looked at that lady and I said, ma'am, I play basketball on weekends.
Yeah, I've got to have my weekends free for sports.
Yeah, And then the third time they offered it to me, they offered to me full time with benefits. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to rethink this, And sure enough, I took it and was there, blessed to have been there for 10 years. Taught me a lot of discipline about work, and I was single then. Um,
So were you in
you
IT there at Central Baptist?
Well, I worked the switchboard and stuff,
Okay.
which was a telephone system back in those days, and I did little insurance, in the slow hours. But I would work first, second, third shift, double shifts, and everything. As I said, I was blessed to be there for 10 years, and
Yeah.
then what was
Just
I
out
going
of
to say?
curiosity, did you finish college, David, or no?
Not in the '70s and '80s. I went back to school in '90s.
Oh, did you? Okay. So
Yeah,
later on.
yeah, I was getting to that part.
Oh, you were working your way to it. Okay.
Yeah, and then in the '80s, I was, um, back then I was still smoking cigarettes and stuff and all that, and I got introduced to road racing in '84. A friend of mine had done it, and I had to go down and see what it was all about. So I modified my chair, my basketball chair, to do it. And my goal was to do it in 1 hour, you know, and
Right.
I'd just given up cigarettes. You know, I know I couldn't do both. And so I'd be out training in my chair in a little bit. And all my goal was to get it under 1 hour. And my first Bluegrass 10K, um, 1984, I finished in 58 minutes and for a
Oh.
10K. And I was like, I was hooked.
So you did it in less than an hour.
Yeah. And so that kind of started my road racing off, and went through there, and was just excited about getting done. It took me 2 years after that, and another racing chair for that to win that race. I think that was in '86. I won my first one. And
Okay, so that was your full-fledged racing chair after an adapted one that you had those first few years.
yeah. And from then on, I got out in the winter. I was playing basketball um, in the summer doing road racing, and then tennis came along in about 1988, and that's right before I switched jobs in the spring of '88. Me and a buddy of mine went to Fort Lauderdale to see what all the hoopla was about.
Oh
And
yeah.
one of my former teammates, he was down there at Ball Harbor, and he was the manager of Marriott and everything. We went down and seen him, stayed with him a few days and stuff, and just see what all the hoopla was about. And it was just a bunch of partying and everything. Something a lot of young kids do for whatever reason.
Sure.
Coming on the way back home, I was coming, south of Atlanta, and I told a friend, I says, I'm going to change jobs. And this was in April, and he said, "Oh no, you're not." I said, "Man, you've been Central Baptist 10 years. You got seniority, you got all the benefits and everything." And I said, and the spirit just came on me that I'm going to change jobs. And so we came back, and sure enough, a couple of months later, um, I had another interview with the Department of Agriculture. The agency was the Farmers Home Administration at the time,
Uh-huh.
and I interviewed with them. The lady I know at church, she said, they're mandated to hire someone with a disability. And I'm like, okay. And I even told them in the interview that don't hire me just because I'm disabled. I got a job, you know, and just hire me because you think I can do the job.
Right.
And that was in procurement and buying, a lot of um, uh, office supplies and stuff with um, for our employees. At the time, we had like 400 employees in our particular agency across the state.
Okay. So furnishing supplies was your
Yeah,
primary forte, your primary duties there.
yeah, and we hired caretakers, to mow the inventory properties that we had because the a farmers home, they offered not only farmers uh, loans, they also did low income housing and um, rural infrastructure loans and stuff and all that. And we did the contracts for our offices, space and furniture and stuff like that. Well, within a year, I get a notice in my in my inbox, and I seen it was from my supervisor, and it was Memorial Day weekend, and I was like, oh, I ain't gonna look at that. And I look at that, Tuesday morning I get back, and sure enough, Tuesday morning I get back and take a look at that, and there's another form in there. It's a Form 52. I'll never forget it. I went and asked the personnel person about it. She says, "What's this for?" She says, "I'll ask for you to resign." I says, "Resign?" I said,
Oh
"I
my
ain't resigning." And it just come over me. And, and that was getting into the afternoon. And I just told my supervisor at the time, the administrative officer, I said, "I need to go home. I just ain't feeling it." And so I just went home,
oh
cried my
gosh.
eyes out, was getting fired. And for what reason, I didn't know. I never even had not much of a conversation with my immediate supervisor, much less, any issues about work performance or if I'd done something wrong or
Right.
anything like that. And so the next day we had a meeting with the state director, which was over all of us. And she just said, "Well, I'll give you 30 days to find another job or, resign."
Mm-hmm.
And, deep in my heart, it was like, man, I'm not resigning. I've never quit nothing in my life.
Yeah.
That's,
Like I'm sticking with it.
I'm like, almost 10, 12 years into my disability. And, I give up on this and try to create a life for myself. And so, um, you know, it just come over me that afternoon. It's like, call your EO officer, and I did and talked to him on the phone for a few minutes. And he said, "Oh, I think that was on Friday." He said, "Well, I got appointments Monday, but if you need me to be there, I can drop these appointments, And I said, "Well, I need you to be here." So we went to Shoney's and sat there, uh, had coffee and stuff for about 3 hours, and he took all these notes and stuff. And, I had all these papers and all that. I says, I never seen this coming, not nothing. It was like hit me upside the back of the head with a 2x4.
Right.
The way it happened to me, and
Caught you way
you know,
off guard.
yeah. And so he took all his notes and went back. He was from uh, Western Kentucky down to Princeton, and so next day he called me up. And he says, "Don't worry about your job." He says, "Just do your job, do what they ask you to do, you know, and work pertaining and stuff." And it's okay. And so about the end of the week, they reassigned me into computers, and I didn't know nothing about computers. This
Right.
is like 1990 and stuff, and I was like, "Whoa, I don't know nothing about computers," but I was, it was mechanical, some of it, changing parts or whatever. I was interested in that. And
Sure.
one of my coworkers was going to school half day, working half a day and all that and everything. I seen how she was doing it. Well, they was offering night classes with adult ed. So I started taking adult ed classes. I was like, I gotta build up my skills here, if I'm going to stick around. And sure enough, got a different supervisor. And, you know, um, he, about a year or so later, he asked me, in general conversation, I said, well, I go to school at night for to learn about computers. So he took all my receipts and everything and went and got them paid for by the same director that tried to get me fired.
Oh,
but
awesome.
but but the EEO officer, when he called me back, and then the following week, he says, just do your job and everything. That's what I did, and then I got transferred into the computer world. And God has a funny way of dealing with situations. When I was in
Yeah,
high
he has a
school,
way of making things work. You got your schooling paid
yeah,
for, which was great.
yeah.
And how long were you in the classes by night?
Uh, I think about 2 years.
About 2 years?
That's about
Okay.
all they offered. And then I started going to LCC,
Lexington
Lexington.
Community College, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, um, went to school there. Um, and, was learning, about the real world, trying to get at least a 2-year degree in, and was enjoying the sports and all. Um, I think that kept me healthy because when I go back and look at my surgical records and stuff and medical issues, I had like 40 some different procedures done. And it's like, man, the Lord had his hand on me long before.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
even thought this thing through and stuff.
And a lot of
And
those are probably a blur at this point, but at
yeah, it
least
was.
at least they
Yeah.
all went well, and you definitely have always made the most of your time. And so you retired in, was it like 21, 22, something like that?
2020, and
Okay, so you
then
stayed with the government through
yeah,
retiring.
30, yeah,
Oh,
almost
awesome.
into my 33rd year.
Oh,
And
well, that's great. Yeah, and then you got all those government benefits and things
yeah,
like that. So that was icing on the cake for sure. Now, in terms of your athletic pursuits, David, why don't we start with tennis? Just one example of a wheelchair sport that you've made a name for yourself in. So, sort of maybe take us through a few of your most treasured memories from tennis competition, and perhaps a few highlights from your championship runs in the tennis realm.
well, I just enjoyed, being on the tennis court. Started in '89, and there wasn't a whole lot out there. A friend of mine, Randy Snow, had written a book about it, and I took his book and read through it and studied. You know, each tournament usually would have some kind of one of their top athletes, would give a clinic and stuff, and went in and did that, took notes, everything, wrote up my own little manual to hand out whenever I did uh, tennis, because I actually worked for Lexington Parks and Recreation, teaching their wheelchair tennis, uh, and also at the Fifth Third Bank Pro Challenge tournament they had here. I've had uh, 3 or 4 years where to bring in top talent Ran a tournament in Louisville for 7-8 years up there, and even did the collegiate national championships up there. And
Okay, so yeah, in addition to partaking in these things, you've even run quite a few.
yeah, I got into a lot, with the administrative part of it and everything. Ran the tournament, the national championships, collegiate championships up there, and just met a lot of good people. I mean, I was all up down the East Coast and South, playing tournaments. Uh, at the time, the U.S. Open wheelchair division was at St. Louis Forest Park out there, which is a real nice facility. Um,
Okay, that's
and
not a
actually
terrible
one of
drive from
those,
Lexington.
yeah. But I was able to do all that, and actually won the Eve Craft Award one year for all the stuff I was doing, volunteering and doing all the things I was doing. I was with the state USTA for 10 years as chairperson for wheelchair tennis, and then also on the committee for USTA's Southern section for 12 years, and then also on the national committee for wheelchair tennis. And one of the highlights of that, I got to go see in New York. That's where the annual meeting is held during the U.S. Open.
Mm-hmm.
And one year I got to go see David Letterman. Took the afternoon off because
Oh, how
it's
cool!
it's actually done at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I got to go over and
Yeah, I've heard that. Even though we'd see it at 10:30, 11:30 at night, it was always taped late in the afternoon.
yeah, like 5 o'clock and stuff. And got to go
Yeah.
see some matches there. Andre Agassi was my first match and everything, and and then I actually had the dinner in the president's box, and that's like the mecca of tennis up there. Is have lunch with the president of this association, always coming by and saying everything.
Yeah.
Got to meet Billie Jean King
Oh my
several
goodness.
times.
So they treated you like a king up there, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was just and then met a lot of good people. Even people in power chairs. Quadriplegics. They'd take the racket to their hand and stuff, and I've won a couple of championships with them, players and everything. And he would just send me to the net. He said, I got the baseline covered and everything in his power chair. I said, well, as long as your battery don't run down, we're good. And that was a lot of fun. And a lot of the tournaments were held at resorts.
Oh yeah, the fancy upscale places.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
but there's a lot of good memories and stuff there.
Yeah, and you got to see Letterman. You got to watch Andre Agassi perform. Now, did you ever get to see Venus and Serena Williams up close and personal?
Yeah, I went up high on the. Of course, they look like ants down there, but they had the big jumbotrons.
From
you
where
could
you
see.
were, yeah.
Yeah, and seeing them play. There's Roger Federer. I got to see him play. Even at Cincinnati, where they have one of the big pro tournaments up there. You got to see a lot of players. Got to do a lot of exhibitions. And some of the clinics I ran, some of them I just attended. It was tennis has been really good to me.
Yeah.
And kept me in pretty good physical condition. And
Yeah,
the Lord
kept you.
having His hand in the middle of it and everything. It.
Yeah,
I'd overcome a lot of those medical issues, which at the time it seemed like a big deal. But then when I look back on it, it's like, man, yeah, you were in and out, you were down a couple of days or whatever.
Yeah. The Lord, He always has ways of staying involved and making things work for sure. And so, from an advocacy standpoint and a coaching and playing standpoint, you definitely have a long and diverse history with wheelchair tennis for sure. Now, switching gears to basketball, this wheelchair basketball was one of those that I know you were hooked on ever since your days at the rehab facility in Eastern Kentucky. In fact, you were privileged to be part of the University of Kentucky's wheelchair basketball team, which claimed a national title in 2008. So I guess let's see. What were the parameters for being on the team? I guess you didn't have to be a UK student necessarily.
Yeah. Then I got started in Eastern Kentucky in 76.
Right.
And then that fall, I started playing with, University of Kentucky Wildcats. And they were at one time it was, all college students, but then, a couple years later, a lot of us aged out and stuff and all that. And so they just developed a club sport. And what was unique about that team and stuff and organization is that 1979, one of our players was a college graduate student, doing his thesis on college or wheelchair basketball. And guy was taking pictures and pictures and pictures. And, I was working at the hospital back then. And, I didn't get off till 10 o'clock. He'd meet me at the gym. We'd practice a couple of hours. We
Till
generally
midnight, yeah.
generally we practice it, like from 5 to 7 or something. But, with my 2 to 10 work schedule, during the week, he would meet me at 10 o'clock and we would, work on skills and shooting and stuff and all that. And, and he was just a great philosopher and just a teacher of the game. He was a dominant player. He's like 6'10", and sitting real tall in the chair. And, he could be sitting under a basket, but if someone was on him, he'd pass to the open man. So the open man's got to make the shot. Says, he didn't need 50 points a game. He could have scored it easily, but he was more of a teacher of the game and stuff.
Yeah, so he helped reinforce those fundamentals.
Yeah. And during his tenure there, he started the Bluegrass Invitational Tournament, which is a premier tournament, which invited only the top 20 teams in the nation. And of course, Wildcats were the host team, so we got in whether we were in the top 10, which we never were at that time, or the bottom 10, which we were a lot of times. And, it was a great experience and stuff to play and watch that talent come in year after year, and did it for, several years there.
Yeah, the Wildcats. That's a great name. Now, just out of curiosity, I know it's an adaptive sport. So is the goal still 10 feet high, or is it lower?
Yeah, it's all the same.
Okay, everything's the same.
The boundaries are, and they pretty much follow the same rules as collegiate ball. It was about 2010 or so, somewhere around there. They disbanded. Or maybe even earlier than that, the Wildcats disbanded and everything.
Okay, yeah, because I knew 2008 they won it all.
Yeah, well, we started playing for Cardinal Hill in like 2000, I believe it was, and they supported the team. One of their recreation therapists at that, they got her degree there at University of Kentucky, met another player from the West Coast, and they got married and was real involved in wheelchair sports. And she came, after her husband passed, she came back. Her mom lived like 2 doors down from me. And she came back to be closer to her mom and stuff. And she got a recreation therapist job at Cardinal Hill. And so she started up the team again.
Oh, so that was actually a Cardinal Hill team that won it all in 08.
Hill on Wheels. And we beat the top 4 teams by a total of 4 points.
Oh my goodness. So Hell on Wheels, is that what they were called?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hell on Wheels. I was like, man, that was the most exciting tournament I've ever seen.
Yeah. It was made up of former Wildcats at Kentucky. Now, during that tournament, or maybe, in general, who were the teams that you considered to be your biggest rivals?
Gosh, there were so many of them. It seemed like they all were better than we were. They would just come in and spank us. And, we started on Friday, Friday about noon. And if you lost, you played another game, Friday evening. Then you had to be back Saturday morning for the 8 o'clock game.
Oh, so it was like a double elimination type of thing. Or at any rate, the road was just harder if you lost.
After we won the national championship in 2008, our coach had gotten cancer and passed in 2009. And so they asked me if I would coach or want to coach. And I said, well, if I'm going to coach, I can't be a player. And so I, kind of resigned from playing and got into coaching. And then in 2010, we actually won that tournament at the Bluegrass Invitational, which was, I've seen a lot of champions come and go over the years, and I always desired to be one. Never thought I would be, and I got to be, a national champion, and we all got rings for it and everything. And it was just,
Yeah, so you've won a title as both a player and a coach.
yeah, and so I coached a little bit after that, and then I think 2015 we actually disbanded again, and then the team moved up to Lowell because all the players were in Lowell.
Oh, okay, so
I
to
coached
make
a
it
couple more
convenient
years
for them.
and was done with that. And then concentrate on wrapping up my work that I was doing, with Department of Agriculture.
2010 was a big year for you as a coach, winning the Bluegrass Invitational, and of course 2008 you were a national champion as a player, the Hell on Wheels. Do you remember who you beat in the title game?
Oh God. Pulled it up. I mean, it went by so fast.
It's one of those things. It's probably kind of a blur now,
Yeah.
but anyway, whoever you defeated, it was a victory well earned, no doubt. Yeah, and in a pretty close game. So yeah, kudos to the Hell on Wheels for that that championship run and the magic made along the way. Now your extensive racing resume also, David, includes, I know last year in 2024, that was your 40th consecutive year of competing in Lexington's annual Bluegrass 10K. And were you able to do that this year, David, in 25?
Yeah, made 41.
So that made 41, yes.
Yeah, this year.
Absolutely. So 41 years, and you've not missed a single one. That is to be commended. So sort of describe what has fostered your long-term loyalty to this race and why it holds such a significant spot in your heart, David.
Well, it's the first race I ever competed in.
Yeah, with a basketball adapted wheelchair, I know those first few years.
Yeah, that was pretty heavy chair.
Mm-hmm.
And of course I just got started and I was working at the hospital, and then one of the sales reps or whatever stuck his head in the window and say, "Are you David Hartsek?" Yeah. I said, "You do what you race?" Yeah. He says, "I think our company would like to sponsor you and stuff." And so I was one of the first athletes to have a contract with Lovejoy Medical back then, and actually got
so you got yourself a sponsor.
Yeah, I bought me a new racing chair. That was good there, and then I was working with once I started working in the federal government, I had all my weekends off, and a lot of 3-day weekends, which is a blessing and stuff.
Yeah, especially for travel, because you went long distance to compete in a lot of those races.
And then one of the guys, he was a Paralympian. I trained with him. He said, "Well, if you're going to race, you got to do Boston. That's the ultimate, in the United States, is do the Boston Marathon."
Oh, sure, Boston Marathon.
And what's unique about that race is you have to qualify. Each age division and bracket has the qualifying time. And he says, "You're going to have to, do this." And I'm like, okay. And
so you had to partake in some qualifying events.
Yeah. And we trained in Louisville. We started out at the fairgrounds. He didn't live too far from there. We'd go to his apartment, and stage there, and then push over to the fairgrounds about daylight. And it's like a 2-mile loop around there. So that worked out perfect. We only had to do it 13 times to do a marathon. And
Gotcha.
it was flat, and, we trained for, 3-4 years. And
all before you even did your first Boston Marathon?
Yeah.
Oh
And
gosh, that
then
goes to
I
show
did
how.
several other marathons. I've done Columbus, I've done Chicago, Indianapolis, Detroit, which actually starts in Cannon, Ontario, and
Oh,
you
on
go
the other
down.
side of the
Yeah,
river.
going down through that tunnel, and having to come up the
Oh,
other end.
that's a neat
Uh,
experience, I'm sure.
yeah, all I
And
can
this
think
is
about is all.
all en route to the Boston Marathon. Now, how many times did you run the Boston Marathon?
Uh, three times. My first time was the 99th running of the Boston, and I
Okay.
was like, Lord, I just want to finish this. 26 miles, and Heartbreak Hill was a reason why they call it Heartbreak because you know they have
Heartbreak
all.
Hill. That does a lot of people in, I bet.
Yeah, it's a 2 mile climb and everything. And they hand out, you know, newspapers, and it's got everybody's number and their name and stuff. So people will see you coming and, call out your name and stuff and all that and encourage you. So I did the 99th, and that's my first one. And I kept remembering what my friend said, you can do anything you want if you set your mind to it. And,
Right.
I was coming home from work, jumping in my racing chair, training 10, 15 miles, you know, in the
Sure.
evenings, and then usually Sundays mornings when we trained in Louisville and doing 26 that one and start all over on Monday. Um, and did it about 6 days a week. And, I did after I did the 99th, I was like, I got to do the 100th, get my name in the book.
Yeah, for
Did the
doing the
100th.
hundredth, celebrating the 100th anniversary with them.
Yeah. There was like 125 wheelchairs in the race and like 40,000 runners. And when you look behind you, all you could see was a sea of people.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
you know. And then the wheelchairs, they got I think 15-minute head start. And so, by the time I made it that point, the runners never called me. They weren't far behind, but they never called me.
Never exactly caught you.
Yeah. And the top
Oh,
of
that's awesome.
racers, I mean, they're doing it, in under 2 hours. I
Yeah.
always did mine about 2:10, somewhere around there, 2 hours. But and
So you
today,
always finish in roughly 2 hours.
yeah, and
Yeah.
today, I mean, they're doing it in like an hour, 20 minutes or so.
Oh well, yeah, it's amazing. I'm sure how fast a lot of them are going down, and we probably don't want to think about the the rigorous training that they go through, but you went through enough yourself back in the day to make that happen. Now, what your 40th Bluegrass 10K, David, was run, like I said, last year in 2024, and it scored you your 10th first place finish in your division. But I know that this meant overcoming some serious complications prior to the race last year. So talk, if you would, about the diagnosis that you were confronted with a few months prior to your 40th Bluegrass 10K and the steps you took to even think about the possibility of partaking in it.
April 24, I remember the day pretty well. Got up, got my coffee, and we was having a storm, and the electric went off. And so I went out to the garage, and I was like, let me see what I can fool around here. And I was working on a bench, and I tinkered with it a few minutes. And so I thought I'd just come back in the house, and I came back to the ramp. I was like, man, this ramp is so hard. I don't remember being this hard to get up. I got up, and I sat in the kitchen for a moment, and uh, my girlfriend was sitting here at the table and doing work, and I just kind of went on by her and everything, and I went into the bathroom, and I just started, you know, everything coming up, and what wasn't coming up one way was going out the other, and um, all I could remember after being in there for almost an hour is going to the bedroom, and I couldn't even lay my head down on the bed. I was like, you know,
Oh,
and
goodness.
then I told her, I said, call 911. I just don't feel good. And that you know the EMTs are a couple blocks away from here, so they were here in no time, come in, and I was in the bedroom. They says, you push it out to the living room, and I turned around, and as far as I went. My eyes just
Oh
kind of
no.
rolled back in my head. I couldn't move nothing. I was kind of shaking
Oh,
and, just um,
that had to be
really,
scary for you and girlfriend both.
yeah. And so he says, I said, I can't move nothing. And, kind of scared me. And they laid me on the gurney. And, I could just see my eyes back in my head. I could hear noises around me and stuff. They took me and got me in the ambulance. And they said, "Where you want to go?" And I said, "Baptist." And over there, and I remember every bump in the road. I said, "I know you guys doing a great job." I said, "But these bumps are killing me."
Right.
So they get me over there. I'm already dehydrated and everything, trying to get a needle in me and just sticking me left and right. And, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to get blood, and everything going on. And then I'm
Sure.
freezing to death. I said, good Lord kept me living, but my teeth chattered.
Yeah, that
and
chatter was like a blessing in disguise, wasn't it?
yeah. And, the nurse come in and says, "Can you sign this paper?" And I said, "What's it for?" She says, "We may have to use the paddles." And they talked about giving room and intensive care and stuff and all that. And,
Hmm.
they brought the paddles in and everything. I said, "We're not playing tennis, are we?" And, that's all I could think of. But, I felt, the Lord had his hand on it. I wasn't worried, but, it's like if I was ready to go, I was ready to go. And so,
And you made a
um,
slight joke out of it about playing tennis, so at least you kept your sense of humor through
yeah.
everything.
And they kept me in there for about 8 hours and finally just moved me up to a regular room. And, and then once they run all these tests and everything and all that, they're trying to figure out what's going on. And, they see a sack of fluid in my spine at L4 or 5, which my original break was at T10-11, and I couldn't figure none of that out. And their diagnosis finally was sepsis, infection of the blood. He said it could have been viral. Um,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
could have been
Gotcha.
contact or bacterial. They didn't know how I got it.
So it was a blood infection.
Yeah, and that was in April. So I spent 2 weeks in the Baptist, and then 2 weeks trying to gather my strength. And and my motto all along is like, do something today. And I kept remember this when I was training for sports or whatever, just in life. What can I do today to make tomorrow better? You know, and with training or whatever, schooling, it's always been there and stuff. And so, um,
So you spent the next few months just sort of training, trying to gain your strength.
yeah, I got out in May, 1st of May, and I'm like, May, June, July 4th. So I was kind of just training regimen every other day, either weights, the bike or whatever, doing what I could do without, overexerting myself.
Yeah.
And I
Not
finished
too
the
much,
race.
not too little.
Yeah, I finished the race and actually won it. And it's like, wow,
Yeah, you
you
were
know,
first place in your age division again, weren't you?
yeah. And
Yeah, that's awesome that you were able to run to begin with. Because I know going into it, you were like, please just let me finish, right?
yeah. And then 2025 had its challenges, which I didn't know about till after the race. Um, I was, training, everything was going along pretty good. And then I kind of tweaked my shoulder. As they call it, don't feel good, you know. So I kind of laid off 3 or 4 days and then went to get back out and the heat set in. And I'm like, man, if you wasn't out there at 8 o'clock, it was too hot by 9. I mean, just smothering hot. So there went 2 weeks of non-training prior to the race. And I did the race and I got third place. And then there was
Oh,
this,
that's awesome too. So we got third this time around.
yeah.
And
And there was a guy that beat me. He was actually, older than I was. He was in his 70s.
oh, he was in his 70s. I go show you the level
Yeah,
of competition at all these Bluegrass 10Ks.
yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned 4th of July. You know, that's when it's annually held. And so you always have to factor in the heat, and that always adds even
Mm.
more complications. And I'm
And
sure
then
you.
I didn't want to, with my shoulder aching and stuff, I didn't want to do any more damage than whatever's done. So, once I seen I was out of the running, I just, stayed, my pace and just finished the race.
Yeah, I
And,
just pretty much kept going at a constant rate like you were.
and then, I got back and everything and started looking into my shoulder, what was going on with it. And, come to find out, 3 of the 4 tendons that hold your rotator cuff together were torn to the point
Oh
beyond
no.
repair. And the MRI showed up all that. And the doctor says, well, uh, doing a total shoulder replacement wasn't a real good option. And but there's another surgery where they take a muscle out of your underneath your arm and put it over top. And I may be facing that coming up. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So
Depends
that
on
hadn't
depends
happened
on how
yet.
the pain and stuff holds up and all that.
Yeah, your pain
Um,
tolerance and other things. Well, maybe with a little luck you won't need it, and if you do, we'll definitely wish you all the luck in the world. But it's great that you were able to, even this year, despite the,
yeah,
the pain in your shoulder and all, and still be able
yeah.
to run the race and get third in your
Mhm.
division. Now, I know your days of competition are behind you in large part, but you continue to remain active, David, in the realm of coaching and even organizing teams. So why don't you elaborate a bit on the endeavors which are keeping you active and engaged these days in sports from sort of a different angle?
Yeah, when I retired in 2020, um, 21, I started as assistant coach in Louisville, teaching the juniors up there and help run their program and everything. And then 23 and 24, I took over as head coach and, you know, went through, several tournaments with them, watching the kids grow and stuff. And just remembering, when I was first started at UK, there was some colleges that had college programs going on. I was like, wow, that would be great, for us to have that. And then next thing you know, the kids movement came along and it just boomed, here in the 2000s and everything. Um, and then 24, when I got sick, I was out of it. I was actually that morning was going to make my reservations to go to the nationals. Um, and
Oh, that morning that you got sick. Oh, bummer.
yeah, with a, wheelchair basketball to do that. And, but I've always been, you know, whatever sport it was, even before or after the competitions, we'd sit around and talk about different things and, you know, get schooled or school people up, and encourage them or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
just in that sport. Um, you know,
So
and
juniors, I'm guessing, are paraplegics. What are they, like 16 and under or something like that?
yeah, some of them, well, for basketball, they compete 21 and under if they're still in school.
Oh, 21 and
Uh,
under is still in school. Gotcha.
yeah, but the kids I was teaching was juniors would start at 7 up to 13, and then 13 to 18 was varsity
Okay,
kids.
so seven's the youngest.
Yeah. And then there was a lady there was a physical therapist that worked on it for a couple of years, getting the program developed for the school system. There's several around in surrounding states and across the United States, that has programs for kids in the school. And she's done a great job, not only with basketball, tennis, archery, track and field, um, you know, several sports there, and they're working in tennis too. I think this year and getting kids at an early age, and just and if you see them, if you can watch them grow when they first come on, you know. I was able to teach one of the Dennis Embry's uh, assistant coaches had a kid that was in a wheelchair, and he had been pampered and stuff and all that, and he didn't want to do what I was asking him to do and stuff.
Mm.
And a couple of times, his mom and dad, if he was an on-court coaching and hollering at his kid, his mom was in the stand hollering at her kid and stuff and all that. About the third time, I said, "Oh, Joe, get a cup of coffee." Leave him there by himself, and then he didn't want to come out on the court. And I'm sitting there, hitting a few balls by myself. I said, "Man, it's a great time and stuff and all that." And, to see that kid. And finally he come out and, at least tried, especially when his mom and dad was there. And then
kind of pushing him a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So he got introduced to it. And then the assistant coach, he got a hit job at Wisconsin, invited me up there to do a tournament. And the same kid, he'd been around, kids in his similar position, with a disability. And, I got to spend the camp with him and everything. And I left his mom and dad, and I said, "That's not the same kid." That was,
he had shown a lot of growth since then, hadn't he?
Showed a lot of growth. I said, this, is already a young gentleman. He was helping out other people and all that. And I said, that's what sports all about, is to watch them grow and see them to be able to do it in all the other sports of interest, because not everybody wants to be a basketball player. Not everybody wants to travel and stuff and all that, but to have the opportunity to, get out and compete instead of just sitting on the sidelines watching everybody else compete.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Yeah, it's always great to have a hand in that, and it gives you a great sense of pride and gratification, I know. And I believe I read you're also working on organizing some wheelchair basketball teams in Owensboro, aren't you?
I attempted to do that, and they give me a bunch of money. And being new to the game, there was so many other tournaments going around it. We never did get it off the ground.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And they had a timeline. They had to spend that money, and we had to end up giving it back. But they were all in for it. Getting it together and everything. Had a lot of ideas, made a few trips down there to get things organized. I wish we could have done it. I know they're doing things in Bowling Green now, with things there with their parks and recreation.
Okay, so there's some wheelchair ball opportunities for our Bowling Green folks.
Yeah.
And maybe it didn't work out in Owensboro that time, but never say never, and hopefully it will at some point here before long. At least you made the attempt, and they were all in, and those are two big pluses for the future for sure. So, David, in closing here, what are some resources that you would recommend for individuals who maybe are paraplegics, or maybe know people who are, that might want to get involved in wheelchair athletics of some sort? Find out maybe more information about it.
Your larger cities and Parks and Recs usually got something going on, and then some of the school systems, you may check and see what's going on. I know when I was doing racing, I was just scanning the racing pages and stuff, and Google is fantastic for pulling up stuff.
Google has been a lifesaver for me multiple times through the years. But anyway, so check with the school system wherever you're at, and maybe if they don't have anything, maybe they can refer you somewhere, and maybe they know other types of availability. Because if you're a paraplegic, that the involvement in athletics can benefit you in ways that you've never imagined, right, David?
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things I did this year too, not getting any younger, and then I realized, like, wow, this is my 50th year being a paraplegic. What can I account for? The successes, experiences, and all that I have had and stuff and all that. So I actually wrote my testimony and stuff and all that. My faith in God, and I said I went 60 years old before I actually joined a church that I believed in, and got to hear the word. And I've been going to that church for like 10 years.
Oh, how cool! We'll give a free plug to that church. What church do you go to?
Bethel Harvest.
Bethel Harvest in Lexington.
Yeah, but when I was 16, I kind of my grandma drug me to church a few times, and that's about it. And then, I knew about him. I didn't know him, but kind of knew about him and stuff. And, laying there in the hospital bed one night when I was down off my morphine and, had a clear conscience, I asked him in my life to, be with me and guide me. I said, Lord, just give me a half a chance, and I'll do the rest. Of course, we know how that story goes.
Yeah,
I
and
did it for a while, but I can see now that through the whole time, even in the field of working tobacco one year when I was about 14, I was looking at the sky and said, Lord, if you think I'm gonna do this for a living, just strike me dead now. Save us a lot of a lot of grief and stuff
you
and
weren't
all
feeling
that.
it.
And I says, here it is 30 years later. I'm working for a department that supports the farmer, I support the people that support the farmers that grew the tobacco.
Yeah, with the Department of Agriculture. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, needless to say, the good Lord gave you your chance, and you took full advantage of it. So where can we find this testimonials in a book of some sort?
Not yet.
Okay,
I've
it's
been
not
asked.
published at this point.
Yeah, no, I've come up with a lot of notes and stuff and all and
Okay.
everything. And,
Well, maybe it will be at some point. But it's great to write that stuff down, regardless, for the family and friends and everybody that and even hopefully future people that you don't know to soak up and learn from for sure. Well, best of luck with all your future endeavors in the realm of coaching and organizing teams and anything else that you may end up dabbling in. We have sure been inspired by your story, I know, and I hope you've enjoyed it, David.
Yeah, I look forward to see it coming out and sharing it with friends and family and stuff. And,
Yeah. Well, we know they'll all enjoy it, friends and family, that is, plus our listeners as well. David, thank you so much. We'll do it again, sir.
Okay, thank you much, Sam.
Ho, ho, ho!
Demand and Disrupt is a production of the Advocado Press with generous support from the Center for Accessible Living based in Louisville, Kentucky. Our executive producers are me, Kimberly Parsley, and Dave Mathis. Our sound engineer is Michael Parsley. Thanks to Chris Ankin for the use of his song, Change. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And please consider leaving a review. You can find links to our email and social media in the show notes. Please reach out and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks, everyone.
Just for once, I think I would agree. We both know there's a difference. We've had our curtain call, and this time the writing's on the wall. tried to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter spells out the